Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. I'm Lord Hudson, and this is Parkitect. When we just finished building our Romanesque style train station, which you can see in another video, and we now go on to building the first Graviton. And the idea basically here was just to gain a little bit of money, because I'm deep in the red. Even though it's a sandbox right now, and it doesn't really matter being so much in the red, I do like green numbers a little bit better. The two rides, and the idea was to make them both contained Romanesque building. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to do the second one. We'll do that in a live stream later on. But for now, we focus on the Graviton, and as an attraction, it has a pretty big footprint, so it requires a big building. And if I think of Rome and a big building, besides buildings like the Colosseum, the Pantheon comes to mind, and that's a pretty massive building. Now, of course, the shape of the Pantheon doesn't really fit the ride, because it's a very difficult building to build. That being said, the rough shape with the roundness at the back and the distinctive front is something that I won't say replicate, but it's loosely inspired by it to make a rough shape. I think that if I want to do a more exact copy, I probably could do that. I do think we have enough building stones to do that, but this was just an idea right then and there, and not having a Google open next to me with images of the Pantheon is something that pretty much did on feeling. It's also a lot of measurements and seeing where the room is, because not only has the Graviton a big footprint, it also animates, goes up, and that might be a problem. And later on in the video you will see that we have some clipping to walls, which is unfortunate, but we do manage to fix that later on. So I've started by laying down the base, and you see it has 3 round corners and a rectangle bit sticking out at the front, which will be our main entrance and should have a lot of grandeur in them. Something that I added here that I didn't do with the station is use the pillar, I think they were called pillar posts, pillar sides. They just make it look as if there were already some marble archways that continue upwards, and it just gives this effect of a more sturdier building, and it ties in the arches on top of each other nicely down. Added a quarter wall, not a quarter wall, I think it's the arch top that basically makes the ridge on the first tier. We fill it in with half walls there, and again add posts to tie in the arches. It just makes it a little bit stronger looking, bigger, solid building. And here I continue that on the back, which is completely unnecessary because you won't see it. I know it's there, and I know it will clip, so I remove it. And then we're gonna start by going inwards. What turns out later on a little bit too soon, because in my mind the building was still a little bit smaller, and it actually turned out to be at the end. This is something that I tried and I'm really satisfied with. It's basically the phrase that you have at the front of those buildings. Of course, not as detailed as reality. There is no no carvings in it. There's no storytelling in it, but it gives the idea that it's there. And because it has to be open, I can't work with floors. And that makes it a little bit harder sometimes to place stuff in 3D. Even though the isometric view works really well. And it seems to be that there is no clipping right now. Just makes it harder to judge where everything is in space. I thought I had more than enough room to go in and destroy the third tier. And add all these extra details. As you can see, there is clipping. There's quite a lot of clipping going on here. But this time I was so busy placing all the details that I didn't see it. And I happily continued for a while. Which only means I had to destroy a little bit more later on. That's the thing with this game, is that you have to do stuff that doesn't work at first. Because here we have pretty much a finished building. Let's call that the Pantheon 1.0. And it looks okay, but there we're gonna have a lot of clipping, and that just won't do. That's just crap. And even though I kinda like this pyramid structure, it had to go, and we had to go a little bit more up before we go in. So removing elements in this game is just right clicking on it. Very simple. Just have to make sure that you click on the right location, and that's sometimes a little bit more difficult. As you can see, I accidentally removed a roof. But that's very easily repaired. We're gonna add another archway top, I think it's called. And that just fills it in perfectly. I'm pretty much using just two wall elements, the white wall and the arch. And nothing else. Got 4 rounded corners, of course. That's about it. As far as walls goes, this is very simple. And here, of course, we have to go up once more. So we've got now 3 tiers of arches. And I'm just watching here to see how the clipping goes. It just works. There might be some internal clipping. That's about it. There's no external clipping whatsoever. And the internal clipping, as long as you don't see it and it works, that's fine with me. And we can close the roof up. Now at this moment in time, it still looks pretty bland. We have this massive marble or concrete block, and it looks more like a communist building than a Roman building. And it's all in the details that are going to be added. This is just the shell. there's a lot of repetition in placing elements. So much so that I haven't counted them, but I'm pretty sure there are hundreds of elements in there. I think the blueprint, which is on the Steam Workshop at this point in time, it's awaiting approval. But if it gets approved, you should be able to download it. And when it's approved, I will definitely add the link in the description. But it's cost around about a little bit more than $6,000, and that's mostly the little parts. It's the sum of the parts. I think the Graviton itself is not that expensive. So basically, take away the Graviton, and everything else is just detailing. There's hundreds of little arch posts in there, and we're gonna add the flying buttresses. Flying buttresses was again an experiment right there and then, and although they don't look like 100% accurate flying buttresses, I do like the way it turned out. Right now it's still pretty sharp, bringing in a little slanted roof. I think it's a half slanted roof, or slanted wall, I have to say. Placing that on top of that breaks that up nicely. Roof half steep, I think it's called. That just breaks it up nicely. And of course we have to get it all down. So they're going to be flying buttresses at the level below that. And using them on the roofs is also kind of an experiment, not knowing if that would actually work or not. But it kind of does. And again, it adds gravity to the building, it adds strength and volume. Just makes it look like it's not gonna collapse like a house of cards. Actually being held up by something. That is very, very nice. And just to break it up a little bit, I'm gonna color the roofs. Got a request to show the little windmill here in the stream. Just gonna look at that for a few seconds and then back to painting the roof. And again, the learning curve here is that you can actually just click and drag. Didn't know that. And just the accidental discovery. And so we have the roof now and the flying buttresses, and then it becomes time for a shitload of pillars. Again, I have not counted them, but as the game does not allow the pillars to snap right in the middle of the wall segments, which is ideally where I want the pillars to be. The double pillars, although not authentically Roman, does work here quite well. It just more medieval than Roman, but with the color setting, it does feel Roman, as much as it can be Roman in this game. And that's surprisingly well. I'm really happy with the end result. It's been a lot of work to do this, especially doing it live in the stream with no preconception of what I was going to build. It just shows the flexibility of Parkitect, and it almost feels like everybody can just simply build something. I'm not a master builder, and generally don't use any images or blueprints or anything like that to make it as realistic as possible. But with this game, it's so easy to make something that looks just good. And I know there are more talented people out there that can make something that doesn't simply look good, but looks absolutely amazing. And there are probably a couple of things in this build that I would do differently now I've done this. As always is the case when you build something. But like I said, this is a learning curve. It's a game where you can keep on learning, keep developing techniques, keep experimenting with all the little parts that you have, and to use them differently. And that just works. The endless combination of parts, and especially as more people are developing parts and developing mods to download and give you more freedom, even more freedom for this type of game. It's an absolute heaven just to be able to build pretty much whatever you come to. It's a little bit like Lego, where Lego is bound by it being Lego. It will never be super realistic, but what people build with Lego can be absolutely amazing, and that's the same thing with Parkitect. It's not designed to be hyper realistic, but what you can build with it is absolutely amazing. I wasn't satisfied with the front, as it was basically too flat. And I know the Pantheon has this column array going up. Couldn't really do that here. Plus I was a little bit sick and tired of all those columns. So a gallery at the front just adds another tier, breaks it up a little bit more. Was tired of the pillars, but you have to have them. And they're a little bit offset compared to the other pillars, but this way they do reach the roof, and I think that actually works quite well. And there you have it. Lovely, lovely little Pantheon inspired Romanesque building. People can actually walk through the gallery. I kind of like that when you have arches and open pathways. You can see people walking in and out. And in this case, it's completely separated from the entrances, so it's not like people are gonna walk through walls. All working perfectly. Here you can see me making the blueprint, and it's been submitted. I had to remake the blueprint because I made a little typo here. Please ignore that. And it's in there, and it was 6,000 something dollars. And you can see, just click it and place it. And there we go, our little Pantheon.